Hey, thanks for joining us on Cha with Laura and Leah. Cha is a podcast and video series of us just having tea with our friends. Cha, as you probably know, means tea in many languages, including our language of Korean. We are two diasporic Koreans that are inspired by that quote that I think many of us have heard by Nina Simone, which paraphrased is that the role of the artist is to reflect the times. And so we are inviting our friends over for tea to talk about our values, our art, our creativity, our dreams for the world that we are all envisioning and imagining and co-creating. And, Cha is our offering to the collective to invite you in and to hopefully serve as inspiration for you to then go on and hold your own in-person conversations. Virtual is beautiful. We are here right now virtually, and this is a gift. And also, there is a particular magic that is generated when we are literally sharing space and air and tea together. So, brew a pot for yourself, join in, and we're so grateful to be connected to you.
Hello to the beautiful community of Cha with Laura and Leah. I am your co host, Laura Chung. And with all full transparency, Leah and I have contributed our own funds to season one and season two. We've paid for the production and all of the editors ourselves. And now we are moving into the next phase of filming season three, and we are starting to fundraise for that. In lieu of sponsorships, where we would have to read out ads during our podcast and video series, we wanted to reach out to our community first to support us so that you are part of the co-creation process. We are raising $1,000 to cover the cost of the studio in Los Angeles and all of our editors who help us make this possible. Thank you so much for your support, and we appreciate everything. Everything is linked down below for you to learn more. Bye.
It's so good to have you here again. I mean, you've been here before.
Thanks for having me.
But yeah, I mean, there's so much to talk about. Where to start?
Well, you were just on the New York Times.
Oh, yeah.
Can we talk about that?
Yes, yeah.
I was like, that was such a big deal.
It was, it's so interesting because it's like, well, fuck the New York Times.
Yeah, I know. And yeah.
It's the and.
Style section, right?
Yeah, it was a style section. I was hit up by a brown woman who's a writer there, so I felt like that made me feel a little bit more like, okay. She's like doing authentic representation work.
And it was during Eid. Was it during
Eid? It was an
Eid?
Eid celebration. It was really cool because it was like the perfect time for me to reflect on how I want to celebrate Eid. Mm-hmm. Because last year at this time, I was so deep in my postpartum, I was not celebrating anything. I was just like surviving. Whereas this year, it was like, oh, you reaching out to me and asking me how I'm celebrating Eid makes me reflect on how am I celebrating Eid? Because the reality is, when we talk about diaspora, you have to make these decisions because otherwise these traditions will just like die off. And I have like a daughter that's like, oh, I celebrate Christmas because that's like so much more like commercial and everyone at this point, regardless of religion, celebrates Christmas. Whereas with Eid, it's like, oh, you could just end up being like, yeah, we never really did anything. So it was really important for me to reflect and think about like, oh, Eid is such a family celebration. It's all like growing up, we would just like house hop and go see our elders and just like break bread with different family members. And I have no family in America that is also Muslim because I didn't, as a Muslim woman, I didn't marry into a Muslim family. And my family's not in the country. So it's like, oh yeah, I guess what are me and my daughter and my husband gonna do? And it was cool to sort of do like a trial run with the New York Times, obviously capturing it, which is like a beautiful keepsake for her to have that like newspaper in print forever. But it also made me realize actually in the future, maybe I do want to actually time out our trips to see my family during moments like Eid, because that family part of it matters to me, and like going from house to house and being with different family members is such a big part of it. So it was like as beautiful as, and I was saying like it's quality over quantity, as beautiful as it was just like doing what we did, it also made me realize, the way that we make sure we are home for Christmas to be with our Dominican family, let's make sure we're home for Eid. That type of stuff. I want her to be able to see like the broader vision of how these things are celebrated versus just like me and you and your dad, we eat and we make sweets and we, go to the park and we do a sweet little thing together. That will happen sometimes, but where I can time it out, I think that's what I realized was like, oh yeah, I don't want to sacrifice the family part of this. I want to be with my family during these moments.
Is it the biggest celebration in Islam?
Well, there are multiple Eids because there's different times that we have Eid. So there's like everyone does the pilgrimage to Mecca. There's an Eid after that. Everyone's fasting. There's an Eid after that. And then I'm Afghan. So we also have Nowruz, which is our New Year's, which is on March 21st. That is a very big celebration for us. So yeah, they're all equally important in their own way. It's like having multiple Christmases, I guess.
It's like a rebirth time?
Well, Nowruz is, yeah. Nowruz is a rebirth time, whereas like the Eids are more so like, they're more religious, whereas Nowruz is more cultural. Yeah, that's why Nowruz is celebrated by specific cultures like Iran, Afghanistan.
I was going to say, it's Persian New Year too, right?
That's what it is.
Oh, it is Persian New Year.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it
sounds weird to call it Persian New Year though, because
Persia doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
So those countries, we still celebrate this very ancient, spring equinox. Whereas Eid is something that's celebrated by every culture if you're Muslim. It's a religious thing.
Got it. And is it, I'm seeing, there's pomegranate seeds, and pomegranates are a big part of, is it all celebrations or New Year? I feel like it's a New Year thing.
Pomegranates are just like one of my favorite fruits. So I'll wear pomegranates all year round. I just love pomegranates.
Do you have something with pomegranate too?
I wore mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have like, in my culture, we have like songs about pomegranates. My dad would make bowls of like, pomegranates for us. Like he would just sit and like peel them back and bring us fresh bowls of pomegranates. So it's just like a sweet.
And both your parents are
memory
Afghan.
For me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Both Afghan.
And they were already together when they moved because you were in the belly. You were in your mom's belly, right? When they were.
Yeah. My parents were probably married for like 7 years by the time they escaped Afghanistan. And my mom, I think the refugee route is such an interesting thing, something I really want to like potentially create something off of that I've been like thinking about for years of just like different refugee routes. The refugee route used to be called the Marco Polo route. It was the route of no return. It's a one-way route. You're not taking that route back. Right. And it actually, when I started learning about the ports, the slavery ports in Africa, there was these doors of like no return. And I thought, it's like, how many humans through history have experienced this journey that they know is not going to be a round trip. And so our route was from Afghanistan to Pakistan to Thailand to Dubai to Germany to London. But my dad, because obviously traveling off fake passports, and he sort of thought, let's get ahead of getting caught and let's jump out in Germany. And also politically, he knew the environment that if you land in Germany, you're safe. So it's really funny.
He like fast tracked it kind of like
it was like a flight to London with a layover in Germany. And my mom was pregnant with me, and at this point she had already gone through some traumatic experiences. She had bled out in Pakistan and been told like, oh, if you get on that flight, you and the baby are gonna die. Like it was very harrowing. And my dad was like, we're going to get out in the German airport. And my mom was like, what's the plan? And he was like, run or fight. Like there was no plan, you know.
Yeah. Wow.
And when they got out, there was no running or fighting. There was like police waiting, saying like being like, okay, there's like illegal refugees or illegal immigrants or whatever that is here, and then they got detained. But then they got housed and.
Housed by the government?
Yeah, what's so crazy is that when you're born in Germany, that baby gets like a check from the German government. So, as God would have it, they landed in Germany, and my mom gave birth to me, and like they lived
so
off
born
of
in Germany.
Yeah, and they lived off of this money that they got from me being born.
Wow. Like lucky, kind of.
I think so.
Well, you are. Well,
I think so.
Yeah. Well, your name. What's the meaning of your name again? It's the.
It's the winter solstice celebration. It's the night of Yeldā.
Right.
It's the night my daughter was born.
Right.
Yeah, which is just so beautiful. But the like core meaning of Yeldā is birth.
Birth. Right. Yeah.
Crazy. And then I gave birth.
Goosebumps.
Isn't that so crazy?
It's so crazy.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, not crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all like faded.
You would be the one to bring that perspective. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I just have goosebumps. Wow.
So how did you went to Canada first? If
Yeah,
I
my
remember
family-
your history correctly. Both of us had you on our podcast, right?
Yes.
Canada?
Yeah.
So I guess if you want to listen to her whole origin story,
Yes.
you can go to either one.
Well,
of
also,
our
you were
podcasts.
on my podcast when your baby was like a month or two old or something.
God.
And I remember I was just like, how are you having a conversation with a newborn? Because I go back to like my first months as a mom, and I was like, there's no way I would have been on a podcast.
Well, I can for sure say it was not in the first 2 months because
The
the
three
first
months.
2 months of my postpartum, I was like a zombie.
Yeah.
I was a zombie. It was such a cloudy time. I wasn't like even in the world. But yeah, she was
little though. She was baby. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
she
wild.
was my baby.
But sorry, I interrupted. You were saying origin story, Yelda's origin story, and yeah, there's a lot there. Yeah.
Oh, I lost my train of thought.
No, you're just saying like people can hear her origin story on either of our podcasts because we talked about it a lot.
Yes.
But there's like a new origin story to tell as, you know, being a mom and being in this current moment in time.
Oh, yes. So you came to the United States at one point, right? And it was like 9/11 was all happening. And I think that's why the New York Times style article was so significant for me watching that. Because I had known your history and your origin story. And then to come out and say, like, this is my religion, this is my culture. At this moment under this administration where I feel there's like another wave of fascism and people having to hide their identity, I felt it was such an important
It's very
moment
powerful.
in your own journey, also because you became
Full
a
circle.
citizen
Yeah.
recently. Welcome to the United States of America.
Stop it.
I can't help it. Every time I say that, I have to say it that way.
It's so complicated. Yeah. Well, so during 9/11, I was living in Canada because my family settled in Canada. So I moved to New York alone as an adult. So during 9/11, I was in Toronto. I lived at the suburbs of Toronto, and that was a moment of my life that it took me, decades, literally, to recognize the domino effects of what happened to me in that time. Because that, I'm actually concepting a story to share visually right now. It's a coming of age story of an Afghan Muslim girl during 9/11. It's my story and it's a real one. And the reality is that I became sort of a good girl gone bad in that moment. And I think that when you are scared of the world, sometimes you could choose to become scary. And that is exactly what happened to me. It was like an armor and a defense. And so I was this sort of like very nerdy, read and write, just like good girl. And when 9/11 happened, I was terrorized. It was a predominantly affluent white school. I had a unibrow. I always stood out. And at that time of life, when I used to tell people I was from Afghanistan, word on God, people did not know where that was. People would be like, that sounds like an exotic island. Afghan? Did you say African? Like, they had no idea. And that was fun to play with and be able to be like, cool, you don't know where I'm from? Great.
So you never internalized that as like you not being worthy enough? You knew that it was their ignorance?
Absolutely. Because I come from a family that is, they're storytellers, and they've been really, really great throughout my entire life since I was a little girl at instilling pride in who we are. So when I was sitting in a philosophy class and, the teacher like rolled out the TV and was like, something really crazy has happened, and put the TV on, and it was just like, Afghanistan. Oh, no. And I remember just like, I felt like ice water had been poured on me, because I was like, oh, people are about to know where I'm from.
And were there any other Afghan, do you have Afghan classmates? Anyone else in the school?
There were probably like a couple that I wasn't connected to. I started dealing with a lot of bullying, and I actually, I don't know if I've ever spoken publicly on the record about this, but I was bullied throughout my whole life. And it turned me into a very angry person. And 9/11 was sort of that breaking point where I was like being shoved in lockers by boys. I was being, called a terrorist. And it was the first time in my life that I finally decided to stop telling my family what was happening to me. Because up until this point, when I would be bullied, I always had this older brother and sister I would run to and be like, I'm being bullied. And they'd be like, we're pulling up. And they were like my protectors. And I feel like I sort of reached this age where I was like, I just have to deal with this on my own, which ended up looking like skipping school, not wanting to be there. But it got into even just like much more serious stuff. I did get myself into real trouble with the law. I really started doing shit I didn't have any reason to be doing, but I was clearly just like angry and rebelling against something. Not even necessarily my family, because I always had a very supportive family.
It's just a lot to process, though, because you're a child, right? Like, you're still a child.
Yeah, well, I'm 15 at this point.
Like, that's still a child. I think also you don't fully psychologically develop until more like your mid-20s, right? Like, the fact that they determine...
25.
They tell us that we're adults at 18. It's really to fulfill other...
Not in my culture.
...purposes. Right.
Yeah.
So that you're a child.
Yeah.
And so to process the weight of what is happening globally and how it directly impacted your family and your identity, that's a lot. That's enormous.
And also built on a lie.
Yeah.
Right? Because you probably knew this whole time that it was all just propaganda and consent to bomb Afghanistan and Iraq, and you're just like, hello, why am I getting the brunt of this?
Yeah, I think that, you're mentioning sort of the naivety that we all, in some way in our lives, long for when we were like younger or of a more innocent time. And I don't know how much of an innocence I've ever had.
Right.
Because I have always been the daughter of Afghan refugees that had their lives taken, their dreams taken. Yeah. And I don't think life ever has been easy. But what's also true is I feel like in the past 2 years, what happened for me was like a confirmation of deep gaslighting, where it was like everything that we speak about inside our home, siloed within our cultures, within our own people, the masses are starting to pick up on.
Yeah, people like me now know, which I didn't before.
And they are actually verbalizing and vocalizing and organizing in a way that we never have even known how to, because we have had to just survive, assimilate, and prove that we are different. And so, recently I was, walking in Bed-Stuy, and I saw this woman. She had like a Gaza sweater on, And it just did something to me because I have always known about what's happening in Palestine.
Yeah.
Did I ever think I was going to see someone in Bedside wearing a Gaza sweater? Never. You know, the truth is, I think we talk about hope a lot, but I have to admit that I don't know how much hope I embodied in my life for my people, for people in the struggle. I think that it was sort of like understanding power dynamics and just feeling like this is what it is for us. We know our truths and we keep that within our home for our own safety. And now to see that sort of like opening up to the entire world, it's like actually given me hope.
Right. Well, that's what Palestinians we speak to. They're amongst the most hopeful because they're like, oh my God, never in my life. I interviewed actually Najla Saeed, Edward Saeed's daughter, and I was like, what would your dad think in this moment, do you think? Like, do you think he would have expected to have seen this? And she was like, no way. You know? And so it's hard for people like me that are very new. Like, I think I've said this a million times, like I didn't know about Palestine until October 8th. So it's hard for me to be like, how is this still happening? Because like it feels so egregious and so obviously wrong and unjust. But for those that have been in the struggle for decades and generations, it's more like, oh wow, this is actually huge. Just the fact that people like me know is huge.
I think that when I look back in hindsight, I'm like, you know, if we were to forecast that there would be a crumble happening, I can look back now and be like, of course it was going to be Palestine, because it was the only thing, in my opinion, that nobody would really talk about, you know, and that's like part of the power dynamics and who gets to tell the stories and who gets to, you know, sort of shape the worldview lens. And people could sort of like get different views of like what's happening in Afghanistan and Iraq and all these places, but I feel like Palestine was just not even spoken about. And it's no surprise to me that it's the thing that sort of broke everyone open, because we couldn't even speak about it. It was just so it was such a long distance, I feel like, for people to go on that talk about timeline shifts. There was this really horrific timeline shift that happened that has like now exposed a lot about more than Israel.
Everything is interconnected. But I think, you know, in the spiritual community, people say that there's going to be this mass awakening, like the Great Awakening. But a lot of, I guess, like New Age white people didn't think that it would be
brown people.
Yeah,
brown.
It would be the awakeners of how evil of a country we live in. You know, because I do think that it was bound to happen, but I don't think a lot of us knew that it was going to be that thread.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if people thought it would be like economics or like, you know, the types of things that people care about. You know, people value money, and I think human dignity, it would be surprising for people to actually realize like the fight is going to be for dignity.
So at what point did you channel your anger then and you turned it around? Or are you still there? I was like, oh, are we still there?
Potentially in the future, potentially in a different lifetime. No, I do think that, God, it took a really long time. It's still taking a long time. I think that motherhood has changed me in a way where I only have a specific amount of energy to expend, and I'm much more careful about how I do that, you know? So, yeah, I think that today when I think about like anger or rage, it's a quicker response for me to decide how I want to channel it versus like sitting in it and living in it, which I've done for so long and I got really, really good at. I think that it's been like pretty proven how unhelpful that is for me.
You've always translated it though into your writing and your music and your storytelling.
Things.
Yeah, you know, I think that Yeah, I think that like the past decade was me practicing how to move through it and the emotions, even if I still didn't know how to.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's ever a destination point for these things, but I think that now, I am putting my energy into ways that I believe can help, whether they are private or whether they are like grand scale visions. I'm just focusing on what I can do versus what I can't do, because I think that powerlessness is really put you in a chokehold. And I know how little control I have. So I'm really just trying to focus on, some days that looks like all I could do is focus on making sure my daughter is happy. That's like the only thing that matters. Me raising her is a part of the fight. But also, teaching a service that I love, but also like teaching women how to DJ has been really cool because I have students from all these different places, including places that really need representation. So that feels like a resistance of its own. And I think that for me, women's safety is just it's my life's work. It's what I care the most about. Always have, always will. I'm working on a play right now that I haven't shared publicly, but I think that that's the whole point, is like we should all focus on like what we care about instead of reacting to the news every day. It's sort of like, how do I just like, roll my windows up and keep driving and focus on what I'm meant to be doing, versus being like, that thing happened, now I have to react to that thing, or that thing happened, now I have to react to that thing. Is like, I just have to keep forging ahead on the thing that I believe could make a significant positive impact in the world, and that's all I can do.
I think the key is like you're clear on what your values are, and your values are rooted in humanity and liberation. Because it's anybody who doesn't have that lens, it can become like an ego project, right? Like, I'm just going to do what I want to do and what feels good for me. But I think like what makes your work so powerful and important is that your values are like, how can I actually make the world a better place? Like, how can I speak for the oppressed? Like, how can I demand like equality and like a better world?
Right.
But I met you in 2018 or 2019, and you're exactly the same person. You're a Capricorn, right? Literally, like, talk about timeline shifts. I feel like I've changed, but you have always been.
It's been like a steadiness, right?
So, like, I remember that one of the first things you told me when we were having like a one-to-one conversation was, I will never monetize my community. Like, that's one of the first things you told me. And I really didn't understand that because, like, because I was like a capitalistic bitch at the time, And so, but like, literally, you have remained true to who you are.
Thank you.
And so I think like...
Slow path.
No, really. And that's why when we met up again, however many years later, at this moment in our timelines, it was like, oh yeah, Yelda's always been like that bitch.
I like to say I'll always take the scenic route as long as I could. I don't have to compromise my values. It's like the goat, slow and steady. That's the way. A friend of mine once said to me, like, like sometimes you could be fast like a cheetah, and I was like, I accept that, but my operating mode is that there is no destination point, and like our values, it's funny because this conversation of community, I wrote a piece about this recently about how much we talk about building community, and it's funny because one of the first things people say is like, the most important thing about community is learning how to monetize it, and it's like, that is not the most important thing about community.
What does that even mean? What does that mean?
Well, like people figuring out how to like put a business model to this thing that they're creating, right? But the reality is, what I care more about is building character. And the piece that I wrote about was sharing that, like, when I grew up, I'm very blessed to have grown up communally. I've always been in community, but growing up, we were never pushed to like find your people and find community. It was always, who are you when you enter community? What is your character? What are you bringing in that door? And it was always very, very much sharpening how you move when no one's watching and that type of concept. And when I got into community building, it was by accident. You know, it was not meant to be a business, a nonprofit, a plan. And I think that for the 8 years that I was running Camel Assembly, that was one of the main questions people would ask me. It's like, how are you going to make money off this thing? And I didn't, because it was really important for me to retain women's trust. And also, you know, when we talk about diversity, it's not a strategy. So if it's not in your DNA, it's not real. And for me, it was like, if I put $1 to this space, there are people that can't afford that dollar. And it's more valuable to me to have people be able to access this space than for me to make a couple dollars off of it. And I'm so happy that I stuck to my instincts, because now I think that years later and people are starting to really unpack what real community is. You know, I was telling actually Joelle this a couple years ago. I was like, I feel like it's just a bunch of people in the gym and no one knows how to use the equipment. That is what community in the West is like, right?
Yes,
it's like people are trying to like step away from individualism and be in commune, but nobody really has figured out how to do it. And it's because it is like a values thing. It is difficult. It isn't this warm blanket that's actually, I was in this circle where people were like, introduce yourself and share what community is for you. And people were like, community is safe. Community is chosen. Community is harmonious. You know, and I was like, look, I could tell you community is not always safe. It's not always chosen. It's not always harmonious. If you think about how complicated a one-on-one relationship could be, and then you create a web of interpersonal relationships, you're going to realize that it's not meant to be this warm blanket that always accepts you and is filled with belonging. It's meant to be something you continue to show up to even when those threads get pulled.
Yeah. Joelle is also a Capricorn.
Is he?
Yeah.
Of course he is.
No, but I just wanted to acknowledge that community that you cultivated, because I think that was the first time I was in a diverse space, you know? And I feel like that was the beginning of something bigger for me. And now looking back at that time, I was like, oh wow, Yelda really knew what she was doing.
Thank you. That means a lot.
And there were so many amazing women in that circle, and everybody had a different perspective. And yeah, I think community is not like-minded, or I think it's value-based, but I think it's more about having the same mission and value, right?
Well, I think even that's the thing about community, is that people enter community for different reasons. You know, so there's people that enter community to heal. There's people that enter community to build, for clout, to give, to receive. There's different motives to why people enter community, and I think that even that, the acceptance of that, can make a community stronger versus we are all here for this thing.
For the same reasons.
Yes. Yeah. And, you know, my first community, it was an involuntary community. It was a community of refugees. And so I think that when people talk about communities are chosen, that's, I mean, yeah, maybe that's your pottery club, but there are many communities that are forged in fire and they're not chosen. You think about the incarcerated population, or LGBTQ in the South, or elderly folk, on and on and on. People who have gone through like a forest fire together. There are all these communities that are not chosen, that are created, and it sort of proves that humans really need each other in adversity, and we're really good at coming together. Yeah, I mean, a little bit of that.
Yeah. I think that's how mothers often find ourselves in community with each other, is because like it is trauma bonding. Yeah. I think also like we don't know how to be in community because our cultural values in the West are so individual based. And the only kind of model we have, I feel like, might be, like socially speaking, might be cliques. friend groups,
Communities can become cliquey.
church,
Like,
cults. Yeah.
The religious and the spiritual, like yoga world, like those are all pockets of community.
But they're hierarchy. There's like a hierarchy that's controlling it that people are buying into. Yeah. And I think what you're talking about, it's not a hierarchical thing, right? It's like we're coming together and we're trying to figure out what it means. But the thing that you talked about yesterday was like, who am I as I show up? How am I arriving into the space? Like, let that be the primary question I ask myself, rather than like, what am I going to make out of it? What am I going to get out of it? Or, even what am I going to accomplish?
Those power dynamics, I mean, they're inevitable of like whose voice is heard most, who gets forgotten. I think that's what's important about dispelling these ideals we have about community. If we enter it thinking that it's this beautiful, safe, chosen warm blanket, we will end up feeling like it failed us, or worse, that we failed. And people will step right back into isolation versus knowing and having an eye on all the dynamics, the motives, the power dynamics. There's so much to consider in actually showing up to community, and that like, how do we deal with conflict? How do we actually resolve and repair? How do we do that work that is hard? And the second you think community is easy and it's the easier route, you're going to be very surprised to realize it's not easier. It's actually much easier to live in isolation and individualism. And the Industrial Revolution is what led us to this moment where it's like, oh, everyone can own a home. This is your home now. You got to pay for it. And suddenly people are like, oh, it's just me against the world. It's me and my family against the world. Because money, 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 and I have to pay for it. And it took us out of commune.
Yep.
It's very unnatural. But, in this series of essays that I'm dropping, The Truth About Community, which even the name of it was for people to immediately think, oh, yeah, what have I inherited? What are the truths I believe? What are the truths that, I believe to be real for community? I get into week by week. I'm going to get into all of these. I've been writing this actually for years and thought I'm going to turn it into manuscript. I'm going to get a book publisher. And what I decided was I don't want to have to create a product every time. I want to share. And in fact, I can have the opportunity to just test these ideas in real time and give myself the freedom to have an ongoing dialogue with my audience. So I decided, no, I'm just putting it on my Substack. So every week I'm going to be sort of unpacking a different element of community. The words that we use baselessly, like safety and belonging and vulnerability, all these sort of words that we throw around like jargon that actually have weight and are the soil and water of what we're cultivating if we understand how they work together.
Yeah. That's why the encampments, we've talked about this, were so threatening because it was like a ecosystem.
Yes, it's everything.
People working together, not relying on the government. I mean, it's kind of like Burning Man. I mean, I know it's problematic now, but that's kind of how I felt in Burning Man too. Like, you come into a camp and you share your resource. There's no money exchange, and everyone has a job, and you all work together under really harsh conditions. I feel like that's...
Well, I think that it's really referencing what Burning Man took inspiration from, right? So if you want to reference like a slum in Mumbai, like the real places where people live like this every day, and it's not glamorized and it's not commercialized like Burning Man, because the reality of Burning Man is that they took inspo from how indigenous people live all around the world. Yeah.
Anytime anything gets too big and commercialized, it loses.
Money changes things.
Yeah.
Money changes things. Absolutely.
Yeah. You talk about demonic frequency, right? Like money.
Tell me about that.
Segue. But like money carries the potential of demonic frequency. Not that it is, because money's neutral, but the way when it's amassed, like what it can be used for, I think is that like,
I think that's what they turned it into.
Yes.
I think normally it would have been just a neutral way to barter.
Yeah, bartering.
things.
I think
Yeah.
it's also why so much of us have this relationship with money that we think it's evil and it's blocked us from receiving it, where the reality is more people like us need money.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
we would use
Said
that
like a
money
Capricorn.
differently.
Why is that? Why
No,
the
I agree with
Capricorn?
you.
What's
Because
I don't know enough about
Capricorns
Capricorn.
they're sea goats, so they have one tail in the ocean, so that they're
Got
very
it, okay.
mystical creatures, but they have the other part on land. So when they
Okay.
can melt both,
Um,
it's like they can use their intuitive senses in the 3D physical reality. And I think the pop culture version of that is like girl bossing. When you haven't mastered the spiritual, all you do is try to go after the
Ambition.
physical, ambitious. But that's just like half of the story of a Capricorn.
Right.
You know?
Oh, I love it. I don't know enough. I only know like bits about my own signs.
Yeah.
Very self-involved.
Yeah.
But I do agree that I think a lot of us from the global majority have been conditioned to see it as a demonic frequency, and then we block it.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, but it's how it is used. And to your point, when it's in the hands of people that actually have values, collectivist values, then
And then we transmute it.
Yeah, you
into
change the frequency of
something
it.
into
Yeah.
something better.
Because wealth isn't an issue, greed is an issue.
yes.
And I think, yeah, of course, burn it all down and tap into capitalism. If that's the structure we're in, and that is what can give us power to shift dynamics, we need to sort of clear. I could speak personally, like our relationship with money, which I have been, as a Capricorn, even just had deep blockages to, because I have, really believed money is evil and money changes people. And the reality is people will change if they're going to change, and they're going to stay the same if they're going to stay the same.
Yeah. I think also it's the very thing that has colonized our motherlands, right? This idea of greed and I want more money and I want to extract your
Extraction.
resources, and then to then like accept it as like, because I have stocks, right, which are demonic frequencies, like in horrible companies, and somehow I've been able to tell myself, compartmentalize and saying that I'm transmuting this money into doing good in the world, right? Like that's what I've told myself, but it's like, if I don't do that, then I'm consistently blocking myself of the very thing that I need to do my purpose.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just like, ugh.
Yeah.
It's so complicated.
It's like the tension of just being a human
A
being.
conscious human.
Yeah, a conscious human
Who
being.
wants to not do harm, but
Yeah.
we're going to cause harm. Which I was actually going to ask you about your DJ career, and then now you're teaching DJing. How did that all start? You were always a DJ, right?
I've been a DJ for 14 years.
You were DJing when you were like fully pregnant. Like,
Oh, yes.
I just remember seeing those
11
pictures
days before labor.
before I knew you, because I was following you, and I was like, "Who is this person?" I'm like, "She's totally
Oh my God.
pregnant."
If you see her now, she is a baby DJ. It's crazy. She'll
Aw.
basically say like, put me up here on the chair. She'll like grab the headphones, put them around her neck, and then she'll just play around. She doesn't know what she's doing. Sometimes she does really freak shit, and you're like, did you just loop that perfectly? Like, she just started dancing. She just
Oh
loved
my
it.
gosh.
And I'm like, yeah, this girl's been in the booth with me before she was even Earthside.
She probably chose you from when she was up, and my daughter thinks we all were on the moon before we landed in.
Probably.
Yeah, so she's like, so when I was in the moon before I dropped into your belly, so when your daughter was up in the moon, she was like probably picking, like she's like, okay, I want a DJ mom.
Oh my God.
So it was
it's
already
so
her
funny.
soul language.
It's so funny. Even though my husband's like, she's going to be in the WNBA. I'm like, do you see her? This girl wants to be a DJ.
That's so funny.
I was DJing for actually a couple of years as a creative outlet for myself, in my home, for myself, privately. And sort of, I think something conscious people will do for anything they want to embark on is figure out what the why is. And for me, Camel Assembly and having these like large groups of women with me all the time became my why. It was like, oh, these women, want to like be creative and connect and make change in the world. And at night they want to shake their ass, and I can give them a safe dance floor. And so that sort of became a more valuable thing for me, because in the beginning it was really me going through grief, needing a hobby for myself. And then eventually it became a way to bring people together. And then you never know how things would evolve, right? So I actually never thought about what I was going to do after I had a baby. I thought, okay, I'll take a couple months off and I'll get right back to the work that I do, DJing, writing, etc. And I actually ended up really thankful. I afforded myself 6 months to just do nothing. And about 6 months in, the Capricorn in me started itching. I was like, I think I am ready to work. I think I'm ready to make money. And it sort of just was like, it struck me. I have taught in different capacities in my life. I had been unofficially teaching friends how to DJ or mix music. And it sort of just hit me like, oh, why don't I just start teaching DJing in my house, so that I can be with my daughter. And I knew immediately I wanted to teach women. And it was really, the rest is sort of history in that it has been a very easeful process. It's just been flowing. It's, I've got sort of 40 students under my belt now.
That's wild.
The community is flourishing. They are really inspiring, talented, abundant, curious, welcoming women that are just like out there getting it, sort of bypassing the gatekeepers because they're doing it together.
That's really cool.
And I'm like, God, I wish I had this when I started DJing. I wish I had a community of women I was getting it with.
But you build what you didn't have. You become
really
the person that you needed that you didn't have, right? And that's what you're doing.
It's been so inspiring. The teacher is the student, so I'm just learning as I go along as well.
Did you know that so many women would be
I know. I'm surprised. I'm impressed. Like,
the thing about DJing is it can be a highly lucrative skill set, but also it can be art therapy. And there's no right way to take the course. So I'm not surprised, because there's a lot of people in the world who want to just get embodied, and they want to get in their body, and they want maybe like a tactile craft for themselves. Of course, as you go along, you might decide, I want to make something more out of this. Or upon entrance, you might know, I am doing this to make a career out of it. But that's what I love about the course, is that you don't have to want to like become a professional DJ. You can do it for yourself. And that is enough. And I have women from all different industries that are exploring what it will look like for them. There's no like right answer. I'm not teaching like a computer science class where you will, walk out with a very specific role in a company, right? It's like, this could be for you. This can be for others. It's your why. You get to choose it. You get to explore it, and you get to take it wherever you want to take it, because really I can teach them, but the rest of it is what they put into it, right? That's what every craft is. It's like you're cultivating for years a technique that continues evolving, right? 14 years in now, I'm like learning these different ways to now pass along the art form.
Did you teach yourself as well? Like, did you learn yourself?
No, I went to a school.
Okay.
I went to a school. It was a really great experience. It was, heavy on the tech of it, which I love, because 14 years ago, women were just hazed in the industry.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's such a male-dominated
Absolutely.
industry.
Very much filled with exploitation, female DJ culture. And, when I was starting and coming up, you really had to prove that you were getting those gigs because of your skill set and because of your technique. Today's a different world, right? Today, it's like, you look cute and you're getting those gigs, get it however you get it. There's 50 ways to skin a cat. And I tell my students, I'm going to teach you all 50. Get it from whichever angle you want. But in those days, it was really like, you got to be technically sound. And I'm so happy about that now, because I'm this like old head OG that's like instilling this tech into these women and being like, you need to use the plates. So it's cool.
Because there's more than one way now to be a DJ, because back then it was just at clubs, right? And well, I don't know. That's what I'm assuming.
Well, it was, technically it was, back then it was the turntables, and so you needed to know how to use those plates. You needed to know the grooves of that vinyl. DJing today, there's two things you'll hear. You'll hear that the art form is dying, and you'll hear that everyone is a DJ.
Yes.
And the reality is that it's a low bar, high ceiling, because there are so many people entering the scene today, not sort of bypassing learning the plates and it's called push button DJing, and it's not me even hating.
Oh, like you press a button and
It's
then
more,
that's your DJ?
that's the evolution technically.
That's like me.
It has made it so easy for anyone to sort of get away with mixing one song into another song, sync buttons, etc., versus manually beat matching. There's all these things. But how I teach my women is in the original way. You know, they're learning the plates, they're learning how to manually beat match. There's no sync buttons, there's no push buttoning, and I tell them, like, you'll thank me.
Yeah.
You'll thank me one day.
Are you on TikTok?
Really?
There's this trend where people have to match the beat of a song.
Oh my God,
and
come
so
on.
many people can't get it.
Oh my God.
And I'm just like, can you not hear
Can you please send me that? Oh my God, okay.
And even like the trend is with professional DJs, and some of the DJs
Can't do it.
find it.
Maybe they're
It's
push.
like,
They must be push
I
button
think they're
DJs.
Push button DJs, and I'm just like, ooh. I didn't know that was a thing.
What?
Their face. It's so interesting. My cousin is a professional DJ, and he has been since he got out of college. And he's like, I mean, he's a man, so I think the gender thing isn't there, but he's like that black sheep of the family where it's like, oh, he doesn't have a serious job. Meanwhile, like, he makes really good money being a DJ.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm like, I don't know why my family members don't take it seriously.
Oh, yeah.
He's been doing it for so long.
So funny.
But I think
Definitely
it's
can
funny
resonate.
that they don't think of it as a serious profession.
Oh yeah. I mean, geez. My family, 14 years later, they're still like, can you get a job? Oh my God.
When are you going to settle down?
Right, like, it would be so great if you got a job. I'm like, yeah, it's fine.
But you've always been a creative. So you've been a writer, you cultivate a community, you're a DJ. How did you know that these were the pathways that you wanted to take with all of your skill sets and passions?
I didn't, you know.
You just like kind of...
I think, yeah, like life will inform where you go. My creativity is in Gemini, which is why you will probably see me do a lot of different
things.
Yeah.
You're a
Oh, okay, I'm going to do like a poetry collection. Now I'm going to, you know, build a women's community. Now I'm DJing. Now I'm teaching, etc., etc. It's not like a planned, calculated thing for me. It really is what a spirit calls. So, you know, I've had years where I've said, this year there's only one thing I'm doing, and that's it. And the very next year I've said, I'm not going to do one thing only this year. This year I'm actually going to dedicate myself to doing like 40 different smaller things.
Yeah.
So I like to sort of play with what I'm doing, and I'm blessed to have had DJing fund my life for the past decade, so that I have that privilege.
And I think like anything music, creative, artistic keeps you in like a space where you aren't bound. You know, like if you were to choose that one thing and it were like an office job, or I mean, I don't know, something that's more rote, it stifles your ability to like imagine and dream and like lay those different pathways. So the fact that DJing is what funds your life is like amazing, because it also like funds your, like, it fuels your creativity.
Freedom to decide what I want.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Didn't happen overnight.
No. And it comes from like who you are, and the fact that like, because you were raised, you talked earlier about like you never really had that like innocence because you were raised by refugee parents, right? Like you were taught about the reality of things. I mean, you literally came into the world with that reality. So that's harsh in many ways, but you didn't have to like unlearn lies, you know?
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of us Westerners, that's like what we're literally doing now is like, oh my God, like everything's been a lie. And there's so much energy that went into upholding that lie and now disentangling ourselves from it. And you've just been in like that truth, which not easy, but like can create from that place.
I can see the yin yang. Yeah. I could see how both of those can be exhausting.
Again, just the exhaustion of being human.
Wait, it's already been an hour.
Oh my goodness,
Okay.
yes.
So we have a rapid fire.
Rapid fire?
Rapid fire,
okay.
Yeah.
What is your big three?
We know you're Capricorn sun.
Okay, Capricorn sun, Aquarius rising, Pisces moon.
Wow.
You gonna tell me
makes-
something?
Okay.
Tell me.
Wait, Aquarius rising, Pisces moon is like your music.
Mm.
Yeah. And you just said like you do a lot of different things, the mutable nature of your moon. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so we've had this conversation before, right? About being a New Yorker. What defines a New Yorker?
Oh, well, first of all, I am not a New Yorker. I have been here for 16 years, and
You won't even take the title?
I will not, because my husband is a born and raised Brooklyn boy that would be like, nah. No, absolutely. He's like my daughter is a New Yorker. I'm a New Yorker, and you know what? I respect it mainly because I'm in a group chat with 3 of my best friends, all born and raised New Yorkers. There are so many things that they reference culturally that I am not hip to, and I just genuinely miss out on, right? And so I feel like I don't need to claim being a New Yorker. It's not a need for me.
I know, it's so funny
And
though, because like I would consider you a New Yorker, and people who have less deserving qualities like just claim it for themselves.
Right. No, I would say I think also like it's almost like I'm used to the not enoughness. Being Afghan, not Afghan enough, too Afghan. Like I am sort of like, okay, I know I've chosen New York as my home. I have a husband and daughter from New York, and I'm an Afghan through and through wherever I am in the world.
Yeah, that's how I think of you too. Like, and that's very embodied for you, and it's
thank you.
So
Yeah.
it's funny though. It's the definition. People have so many different ideas about it. It's really interesting.
I feel like being a New Yorker, it's being born and raised here. And not just born here, because here's the thing: if you were born here and then you grew up in Portland, I'm sorry. Okay, that's how I feel about it.
Regents exam.
That's how I feel about it. It's like you really had to have spent like a substantial amount of time being born here or raised here.
Yes.
She's in the camera. She might knock it down. Kinlino.
My sweet girl.
Jeez. Do you have any red flags?
She probably has a lot.
Whoa, just generally?
Generally,
Take that as however you want, like your own red flags or red flags in other people.
I mean, if somebody says that they love Israeli food,
Clearly.
that's a red flag.
I love your Israeli pomegranate earrings.
I think that I have had to put guards on my empathy in recent years, but like I'm a pretty empathetic person. I think to like a fault where I've like allowed a lot of crap to be gotten away with.
Yeah.
So I can't say I have like very specific red flags because I can always almost like empathetically justify somebody's like
Pisces moon.
yeah, no. I mean, I'm like, no, I'm a red flag. I don't know. What are we talking about?
I am the red flag.
Yeah, no, I can't think of like any specific red flags, no.
Okay, last question. If there was no such thing as capitalism or colonialism, what would you be doing?
Right, because some of this work is in
Resistance to, yeah.
I would be sitting around the fire telling stories. Yep. Yeah, storytelling. That's
Just
like,
storytelling.
Yeah, that's my favorite. That's my favorite.
And you're a really good storyteller.
You're a really good
Thank you.
storyteller.
I feel
Thank
like I just go off in tangents and I need to like
No, I came up in a family of just exquisite storytellers. And so it's just like the most human thing that we do. right? Yeah, I would.
I think everything else that we do is trying to recreate storytelling in some way, in like a packaged way, whether it's a song or a literal book or like a movie or just like when we get together over a cup of coffee or cha, like that's what it is, right?
Sharing stories.
Sharing stories.
Yeah, I'm story obsessed. Love a story.
Do you tell stories to your daughter, like at bedtime?
Oh yeah, are you kidding? When she was like 4 months old, I would be like rocking her, and I'd be telling her real stories happening in my life. I'd be like, you know what? I never heard from her again, and can you believe that?
That's cheap, man.
I'd be like, Iman, I'm literally in the middle of something serious. You know, I'd be joking. I'd be like, are you serious?
It's gonna be so fun when she's full on talking and you can full on have comfort. You're gonna die.
No, I mean, I'm talking to her all day long.
Yeah, and she's just gonna suddenly, and I'll say it to Avi too. I mean, she's 4 now, so it's been a while that she's been talking. But when she first started talking, we'd be like, how did you learn how to talk? And she's like, how did I learn how to talk? And she, because it's fascinating, but you're going to love it so much.
Her voice is already like my favorite song. She just has the sweetest voice. So she's starting to say like a few words here and there, but I can't wait for it. Yeah. I'm always just like telling her what things are. I'm telling her
because she's
how
taking
things
it
work.
all in, and it's one day it's just going to be like, blah, blah.
I'm already seeing it. I'm
Yeah.
already seeing her like every morning. I feel like overnight her brain is like developing and processing things, and she wakes up and she immediately starts blurting out things that she's just like
they download everything in their sleep. Yeah.
But thank you for
thank you Yeldā. Thank you. Cheers.
guys. Thanks for having me. Was that your first cha? Cheers.
Yes.
It was.
Love that. Oh my god, thanks for having me, guys.
Oh, thank you.